Weekend. Good, bad, and ugly. Let's start with Friday. Friday we talked a lot about the quarterback decision because Steve Sarkisian once again indicated after practice on Friday that he kind of knew where he was going with the decision. There were a lot of insider reports out there that it was going to be Hudson Card and he was going to pull the surprise party. But by all accounts, the timeline was a meeting with the quarterbacks on Friday morning. And then John Bianco in the UT SID's office put out the statement, right around lunchtime or ahead of lunchtime on Friday that Steve Sarkisian in those meetings had named Quinn Ewers the starting quarterbacks, informed the quarterbacks. And, there was some scuttle Friday afternoon, Buck, that, why didn't he just announce it on Thursday night? Was he influenced by big money donors or what was going on? Folks I talked to said Sark just wanted to get it out because he knew he was going into some coaches' meetings right after the meeting with the quarterbacks, and he figured in this day and age it would leak pretty quickly.
Were they thinking it was a Friday drop or something? Was that what people coming to the conclusion of a Friday drop or something?
People are always looking for a conspiracy theory. And because, again, the insider reports that came out Thursday night, and again, believe the reports as you will, though, that it was Hudson Card that he was leaning because he kept saying all last week that he had a good feel on where he was going. Seems pretty clear now that it was Quinn Ewers, and he let the players know that, but didn't want to announce it on Thursday night because he hadn't met with the players yet. I remember when he had the media availability on Thursday, because a lot of people were, why didn't he just announce it last night? Well, according to those we talked to, it was a meeting with the quarterbacks Friday morning, and then the just right after the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like everybody doesn't need an explanation. He's made his decision who the guy is, and it's. I don't know if it was an overwhelming decision, but you have your quarterback, you have your leader. You got to stick with this guy. You can't be jacking with him, pulling him. If something goes wrong, throw the other guy in. It's just you got a quarterback that you got to live with for a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, take your lumps. I mean, we talked about that a lot.
He hasn't played in games, so it's not going to be all that easy. And from what you see at these scrimmages, he does have a tendency to throw a pick here or there.
Yeah, he's throwing the ball over.
Yeah, and he's got to get out of that because that ball is going to be important to them. If you can throw it away, you need to throw it away. Don't force it down the field. It sounds like he forces some throws every once in a while because he's not fleet of foot. You know what I mean? He'll hang in the pocket. I mean, that's what Sark wants. He wants a pocket kind of quarterback that'll hang in there, but make a quick decision. But when things start to break down around him, it sounds like the defense was coming at him. He's getting a little bit of pressure over the course of this scrimmage and let the ball loose at some times where he probably shouldn't have let it loose. But
that's what a guy
needs some experience now.
I mean, he's an elite arm talent. We know that, right? As far as the ability to flick the football and put the ball into tight windows, that is an advantage. But for a young player, it also can be a problem when you start trying to fall in love with that arm and think you can make a throw that you shouldn't try to make in those spots. But again, Steve Sarkisian said at Big 12 Media Days he kind of knows where he's going with his quarterback battle. He said at the beginning of camp. And it feels like, in hindsight, all along it was Quinn Ewers who, he's established himself with the locker room already as the leader of that team. You see him, he has just kind of become the it guy and the face. But again, it was a competition. And obviously Steve Sarkisian saw enough in the 2.5, 3 weeks of training camp to say, you know what? Yeah, he's a freshman, but he does the things we need him to be able to do. And that's where now – and again, it feels to me, and again, I'm now just taking Steve Sarkisian's words and playing the puzzle. When he said at the beginning he has a date in mind and when he wants to name this, that would make sense after the second scrimmage or right before the second scrimmage. And by all accounts, the same insider reports about the previous scrimmages that have been pretty accurate said that Quinn Ewers did seem more assertive on Saturday. That he wasn't sharing reps with Quinn Ewers. It wasn't, or with Hudson Card. He was the quarterback.
Yeah, that's got to make you feel better, and that's what Sark wants to see, how you feel now that you are the guy and how you perform.
And you've informed the team. You've informed the quarterbacks. The team is looking to Quinn Ewers for leadership. He now knows that, and now has 12 days or so to really establish that.
And I've always said, that how will this be something that money people, or will this be something that the coach has to look at in the mirror and said, what's best for this football team? And I'm going to say that the coach is looking for what's best for the football. Who gives them a better chance to win some games? Who's going to get the ball down the field? Who's going to be making the decision? I mean, who is going to lead the football team? It's not just offense; it's everybody that's involved with the quarterback. So he feels like this is the guy. So play ball. Let's go. And it's time for us not to hear about how the defense is taking advantage of the offense. Those days should be over with. Now when you start to put install in E and start to do some things and even look against your own defense and how we can beat that guy. This guy is roughing us up over here. it's time to beat those guys, too, on the defense side a little bit now, too.
Well, right, and you were around it long enough. You understand this is now goes from you're installing your offense to beat Louisiana Monroe. What is the game plan?
And I got enough to beat some of those guys on defense right now.
Yeah, and how much can you maybe look into, working on some Alabama this week, too, because that's the following week with the number one team in the country.
Yeah, because I got a feeling if they wanted to just tee it up, this offense wanted to tee it up and run Bijan down this defense's throat, that the defense would have a hard time. I mean, if they decided, if they were game planning right now their own defense, I would say even with this offensive line right now, they would load it up, and number 5 would be carrying the ball an awful lot, and that would be hard to stop for this defense.
Right, and
I think it will be for a lot of teams.
Well, I think it's fair to say that Saturday they were pretty careful. They were bubble wrap with Bijan, bubble wrap with DeMarvion Overshown.
They only needed one guy to get hurt on Saturday. They would have called it.
Right, losing 2 starters for the season in the first scrimmage was not optimal. And so now you be very, very careful. We saw that a lot in the NFL, and you're seeing that a lot in these preseason games. It's getting harder and harder to take anything away from these preseason games. For the Cowboys, you took away Kevontae Turpin. That guy's special.
Yeah.
That guy is going to help the Cowboys in a return game.
Is he is he a rookie in the NFL?
Yeah.
Or is he okay? So he is a rookie status.
I believe so. I mean,
he's never been in the NFL. He's never been on a team. He's played a USFL.
I think he had some training camp opportunities, and USFL was his way in. He won the MVP of that league in the spring.
Because he's been out for 3 years, right? 2 or 3 years from college?
Yeah, I think so. Let me look at the calendar. But, man, he is still electrifying. Longhorns had to deal with him for years at Fort Worth.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that guy.
Kickoff returner, punt returner.
Well, and those are not fluky games. I mean, fluky plays. That's a guy that's got great vision, got great burst and acceleration, and he's aggressive with it. He runs the daylight. But aside from the fact that guy's going to help the Cowboys and
hopefully in the wide receiver position too.
Well, that's where you don't know because we haven't seen him in that role. But, yes, they could use him.
Yes,
they don't have a lot there.
Yeah.
They need people that can get open and catch balls from Dak Prescott at this point. But as far, again, the big picture of what you can take from a preseason game, I mean, I watched quite a bit over the weekend. I think Buffalo's pretty good. We talk about the Ravens have won 22
I think
in a row.
Buffalo is going to be a problem for everybody.
Well, I think if I had to put money at the window right now, who's going to win the Super Bowl, I'd probably have, if you forced me to make a bet, I think Buffalo would be my most solid bet.
Yes, I would say so.
Because they just looked the part of a special team. Von Miller's rolled in there to play defense.
We'll find out how much the quarterback misses his offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Brian Daboll being with the Giants now. And speaking of that, what can you take from the preseason is what you didn't want to see yesterday when the Bengals played the Giants and the top 5 pick Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon. They're one of their 2 top 7 picks for the Giants. In the second quarter, he's still in there. He gets cut blocked by this guy who's going to get cut by the Bengals, and he may have a knee injury now. And then you're thinking, for Brian Daboll, you're trying to get the rookie some snaps, and guy goes low on him.
Second quarter.
No, you're like,
thanks.
Oh, man. Let's hope the best for him, and it's not a severe injury for Kevontae.
Well, I'll just say this. The best for the University of Texas is that Hudson Card keeps his wits about him and continues to play the position hard because, believe me, you'll get called upon. I don't know.
You're going to need him.
Well, Hudson Card has been behind this offensive line, so he understands, too, that there is always, at any given time, some pressure coming.
And the Longhorns, suffered what appears to be a couple of minor injuries on the O-line on Saturday. So the Saturday offensive line was even more thin than usual because Kelvin Banks, the left tackle, apparently turned his ankle a little bit. Not serious by all accounts, and they kept him out. Cam Williams, the other freshman from Duncanville, also suffered a minor.
Anytime you talk about an angle with a big guy like that,
get him off the field.
What a pain in the ass that is for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's looking more and more like the freshman Kelvin Banks will be a starting offensive lineman. The question is how many freshmen will be starting, and that's where, as we talked a lot about the quarterback battle, even if Hudson Card was dead even or right there with Quinn Ewers in camp, if a third-year player is dead even with a first-year player, go with the higher ceiling player and let him develop and take his lumps behind what's going to be a developing offensive line. I think that's fair to say too. But let him build the rapport because that's really important now for me because, Sark talked about that. And remember last year Hudson Card was in, then Casey Thompson was in, and then Hudson Card. I mean, you really want that quarterback to be able to build rapport and chemistry with his
and not everything is going to be smooth with this.
Yeah. Oh, I think fans have to put their expectations in that spot, especially early, that there's going to be there. I mean, think about it last year down there at Texas A&M. I mean, Texas A&M was in our top 10 last week. They came back. They had 4 new starters on their offensive line, some young guys that they kind of went with because they felt like they were going to be real good players, just like Sark is doing now. They put a first-year quarterback out there.
But they rode on there. But they stayed until their quarterback got hurt, and then but what they did was they leaned on that run game of theirs. They really did, and they had a fantastic run game, and then they're going to come into this season with another fantastic run game. So no matter who the quarterback is at Texas A&M, you know what they can lean on? A-Chain, that dude.
Yeah, well, and that's where I'm saying. And then Haynes King got hurt early in the year, which is to your point about Hudson Card. Be ready. And I'll say this for Hudson Card. Like, he's close to a business degree from the Macomb School. I think he wants to finish that.
He's in year number 2, correct? I mean,
yeah, he's about to be done with his business degree, and I think that's important to he and his family. Look, that guy could have
transferred. Well, you hope that's what it is. I mean, but there's no reason to transfer now.
I know. Well, that's right. That kid could have jumped and transferred immediately when Quinn Ewers committed. Yeah. I mean, Quinn Ewers committed back in December, right, if my calendar's right. I mean, Hudson Card could have took off at that point, understanding the writings on the wall here. They're not bringing this guy in to not play.
Well, yeah, if he's not the guy – This year, then Hudson Card, I don't see will be the guy, because not with Arch Manning coming in. I mean, this was his opportunity. It really, really was. But that doesn't mean you've still got to be ready as the backup.
That's right, and that's where I feel like the hope of your point would be, is he ready to go? I think he will.
He has to stay ready, yeah, for sure.
But I mean, when the season's over, if he wants to jump in the portal and go play college
nobody's
football,
going to blame him.
No one would blame him for that at all. But at the same time, he could have done that last January, and no one would have blamed it. It would have been, his decision.
Well, he felt like that he was still going to get a fair shake at the quarterback position.
And here we are, and now, but again, to the A&M comparison, he could be needed early. I mean, Haynes King got really hurt early for the Aggies, and you go
it's
to the
quarterback.
Next guy.
When you're constantly talking about the offensive line, so you're constantly talking about the quarterback and the dangers that he may be in.
Well, go back to your original point. I mean, if you're Texas, these young linemen, you're really working with them. By the way, there were reports that after the practice, the offensive line got outworked by the D line. So Kyle Flood had the linemen doing barrel rolls. I mean, they were doing extra work afterwards. But what you want to be able to rely on early is the run game, right? You want to be able to. And we saw this in Mac Brown's early tenure at Texas with a young quarterback named Major Applewhite and Ricky Williams.
Yeah, you've got the best runner in America,
right. And you had a young quarterback. And now for that year, Texas had a veteran offensive line and Ricky Williams, and they saddled that thing up and run the ball. If you have great running backs and that's your best position, can you develop that? I mean, look, at Alabama game notwithstanding, you're probably not going to be able to be very one-dimensional against the best team in the country.
No.
But the other teams on your schedule, can you establish the ground? Can Kyle Flood get this offensive line, especially in the run-blocking schemes and fits and that physical, run-blocking scheme they want? Hey, guys, fire off the ball. Let's be physical. Let's get after it. And we're going to run the football. Don't need a lot with a player like Bijan, and we're going to be able to stay in good and favorable down and distance. And then that'll give Quinn Ewers the opportunity to run play action pass and cut the field in half and really, move his. And the key will be in the month of September is getting ready for conference play.
Absolutely.
To get Quinn Ewers and that offensive line as much live fire as they can to be ready for the Big 12 conference.
And don't expect anything less than the best from this defense. Those days are over for them. There's no, well, we don't have this guy, at safety or corner. No, you have enough players. You ought to be much, much better than you've shown over the last couple of years defensively. You have to be. So you can't be record-breaking defense going the wrong way this year.
No question. And Sark spoke about that on Thursday, that he feels like what he's seeing from the defense is encouraging, that they are flying to the football. They have some guys stepping up and.
No, we've talked about if they're just good enough, if they're above. I mean, if they're average compared to what they've been.
Because they were terrible last year,
especially
late in games. Can they be better? If they are, pull to, they were a 2 last year. Can you get to a 6 on defense and a 6 out of 10? And then on offense, can you ride the running backs and then play action pass and Quinn Ewers with the live arm
to
create big plays? So that's where Texas is, 12 days out to the starter. And as we said, you just made it through the final weekend you'll deal with without college football, because 0 week is 5 days away.